All right. What's going on, guys? Phil here, and welcome to Waypoint. And I wanted to just talk about the first thing is, hope everyone had a good Father's Day weekend. It's I know that the weather has changed quite a bit where I'm from, out in Massachusetts. But again, I hope everyone is doing well and things like that. But let's just get into it. So you're probably wondering, right, what's on the screen? So just like always, the three topics that I'm going to be talking about in the video is actually the TraveLog, Not Financial Advice, and cTheories. So you're probably wondering why we have these chicken tenders. But one of the things I really just kind of wanted to point out kind of right off the bat here is that, it's almost the end of June. I mean, who would have thought that, we'd come to this point now where time just moves really quick. And one of the great things that I do want to talk about, and this is going to be a really good show too, is that there's going to be some meaning with this, the chicken tenders there. And it's not like a lemon pepper chicken. It's more kind of barbecue sauce and hot sauce. So it's a little bit messy of a picture, but I figured I'd show you guys and share with you, what's been going down even before I went out on the road. And that's part of the reason why I have that up there. This was a few days before I was heading out on my trip and was having a great week. So I figured a great way to kind of celebrate the week was having some chicken tenders, So it's almost been a good actually it's been almost 3 weeks. And the reason why I bring this picture up is because I don't know if everyone has actually had a chance to visit the New Bedford Public Airport. But it's fairly small. It's not the biggest airport out there, but I was able to rent a car from there, and it's quite available. There's not too many vehicles, and there's not too many planes that, at least that I noticed, were traveling back and forth. I think mostly they go down to the Cape. So if you do get a chance to get out there, this is just a quick view of the interior of the airport as I was eating my lunch and waiting for my my car to be ready. So why don't we just flip the next picture here? And they got some cool historical things there. They got the Roach House as well as the Seaman's Bethel and things like that. And we'll talk a little bit more about Frederick Douglass. I don't know if anyone has had the chance to go visit New Bedford and check out the museums and things like that, but it's a really great place to get in touch with the history of New England, especially since it's, more specifically New Bedford, it was the whaling city capital of the world at some point during the early 1900s. And, one of the things that, or the thing that dethroned the whaling industry was actually the advent of petro, or oil from fossil fuels and things like that. So really, it's an interesting place to go check out. And even the airport itself, believe it or not, I've actually never flown on the airplane over there, but it's something I think, just looking back at it now, this is probably something that I'm going to do when I'm back down in New Bedford, and possibly check out Cape Cod and things like that. This is just one of the lights for the lighthouses, or they might even use this for the plane as well. And what they use is a series of Fresnel lenses to magnify that light, and it's pretty hefty. But it was a really cool thing to see, and also just be able to I took a picture of it because one of the interesting things, if you guys know me personally, as well as know that I'm into virtual reality, one of the technologies that they use for the lenses in the virtual reality headsets is Fresnel lenses. And part of the reason for that is to reduce the thickness of the lens itself so that it kind of zooms in on the screen. So it's something that if you have an old projector TV, which most people probably won't at this stage in their life, especially if you're in the US, but they have these huge Fresnel lenses to magnify the screen quality, because on the bottom that's actually where the projector cameras are, the projectors are that emit light, and then they project it onto the screen. But before it gets onto the screen that you see, it actually uses a Fresnel lens. And originally, I actually saved a Fresnel lens for myself, but at this point, I mean, and it was something from projection TV that my buddy helped me pick up in Boston. And it was kind of funny because when I told him what I was using it for, and they're much heavier than they look too. So if you get a projection TV, keep in mind that they're a lot heavier than a lot of the flat screen panel TVs that are out today. So this is the I don't know the name of the dog, but Sophia's cousin has this really tiny, lap dog that they had, and really, fearful, tried to scare me with its puny bark, but every now and then the dog would sit down next to me on the couch. So I figured I'd take a shot of it. And this was actually the second day that I arrived in Guayaquil, and her cousin lives in Guayaquil. So she and her cousin actually invited us to go eat. And on top of that was actually the place where I got my haircut, because her son actually does haircuts. And her cousin is actually a chef, and she made this really great cordon bleu, and then this broccoli cream soup, I believe. And as you can see, it has some rice, the chicken cordon bleu, and then some roasted potatoes. And it was really a great welcome. And keep in mind too, this was a little bit towards the afternoon, and I brought my laptop and my phone. And since I had the Skyroam with me, I was able to do my work while I was on the road. So during the day, we stayed at the Airbnb, and then the next portion of the day, towards the afternoon, I brought my laptop and my phone and logged in and did all the stuff that I needed to do on the computer. But this was one of the meals that we had. Unfortunately, I didn't take a really great picture of it, but as you can see, I mean, it tastes amazing, and obviously she did a really good job with the presentation. And I wasn't really sure what this drink is, but it's a sort of tea, with some sugar and stuff. I'm not really sure what that was. And you're probably wondering why I'm kind of going back into time here, from the time that I arrived from Ecuador, and then, from the time that I left the U.S. and then arriving to Ecuador. I really kind of wanted to kind of bridge, what some of the things that I did kind of in between leading up to today. And one of the things that I really do want to apologize about is, I had a lot of technical difficulties when I was doing the filming last week. And I did, this is a shameless plug, but what I did was I re-recorded that video with I believe better content, just because I think there was a lot of important information there that I really wanted to share with people. So now that I was able to go back to, I guess you could say, my office area, which is essentially the living room of the house that Sophia and I rent here in Santa Elena. My setup is kind of more semi-permanent, where I have the big screen TV where I can have the screen, what you see right now, on top of kind of like the things that I look at kind of to control the screen itself. And this is a really cool picture that I wanted to share with everyone. So on Saturday, Sophia and I went out to Guayaquil, and this was the first time she actually took a lift, which takes you kind of across Guayaquil over to this other city across the river called Duran. and I think it was like about $2 for both of us. But it's one of those experiences where you can really get a sense of how big the city is, and then also kind of just get an overview of what the city looks like. And it actually went online last year, I want to say in October. So even during the pandemic, this project was being completed, and we actually had a chance to go ride it out there. And $2. I was talking to Sophia about it. I mean, that's not very expensive as far as kind of a tourist attraction like something like this, where it's both relaxing, but at the same time it lasts quite a bit. But you're able to go, like I said, from Guayaquil, from at least the midpoint of Guayaquil, I want to say, or somewhere near the center of town, and then that crosses over to the river. And as I progress through the pictures there, you're going to see, and that's Sophia too, by the way. And you're going to see some of the different attractions that are in the city. And keep in mind, this city is a very industrialized commercial city. This is a huge port where imports come in and export and things like that. So let me just cut to those so that you guys can see. For the Independence of Guayaquil is a translation there, and this is just one of the areas that we stopped at. I want to say it's one of the government buildings that this lift trolley that passes by it. I thought we were actually going to go to a high mountain point, but it actually just cuts across, like I said, to that city of Duran. This is one of the large cemeteries, right near the center of the city, and it was really quite beautiful just to be able to see it, and very kind of European style, places, tombs and things like that. So I took a lot of pictures and video along the way. This is just one of them. Again, really beautiful construction infrastructure, as well as I really like honestly, like for me, the gray and the white, and then the combination of the tropical trees with the stonework is it's just absolutely beautiful just to look at. And obviously have those people rest in peace and things like that. This is Malecon. This is right off of the coastal area. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop a line or anything like that. I'll be glad to see if I can answer them as well, or at least I'll do my best to try to answer any questions that you might have. I'm fumbling over all my windows here. I have so many windows open. All right, I got to open a window again. I've lost. So this is our arrival. This is our arrival in Duran. And if you can tell just by the design, it's fairly new. They did a really fantastic job. Sorry guys, the dogs are barking in the background. That's kind of just a normal thing that happens. One's actually right near the patio area outside. So I apologize if you can't hear me there. I'll just repeat myself. But this is when you cross over to the left, it goes over the river. The station that it lands on is Duran. And part of the reason I also believe that the price of this lift is actually pretty low is that it's not only for tourists, but it's also for people that commute from Duran to Guayaquil to work. And this is really a cost-effective solution to avoid the traffic. But obviously, you're going to have traffic foot traffic now when you're traveling, right? When you're using the lift, because there's going to be people using this thing. But now you can bypass the roads, which is kind of like a roundabout way to get into Guayaquil. But again, so Sophia and I actually took some time to go check that out. And yep, so this is crossing the river. So right now, we were leaving Duran and heading back to Guayaquil. You can actually see the Ferris wheel right over there, right? And it just crosses over the river. And the river itself is actually pretty shallow. It's not particularly deep, where you can actually see a lot of plants kind of floating. Jeez, the dogs are just, if one dog passes on the street out here, like the dogs just go crazy. Dogs just go absolutely crazy. But here's the lift. This is the lift heading towards. This is the lift heading towards Guayaquil. This is the one heading into Duran in this direction. Very relaxing. Interesting way of interesting mode of transportation to get to the city. And like I said, I think once people start to get a little bit more acclimated towards it, towards using it, and I'm sure during the week there's probably a lot more people using the lift to get into Guayaquil and then back to Duran and vice versa for work. But because it was a Saturday morning, it wasn't as busy as it was. And as you get into the city, there's actually several terminals where you can hop on, to head towards either direction. So it's a really nice setup, to be honest. Not only for tourists, but like I said, because it's low cost, and it's probably because the government subsidized some of those costs. Very large project. It's a really good way to kind of get in and out of the city without having to deal with the traffic that could arise with coming in and out of a large city like Guayaquil. And of course, because I'm from New England, you gotta show Dunkin' Donuts. So in New England, Dunkin' Donuts is everywhere, right? So you can close your eyes and then just walk in one direction, and more than likely you're going to land in a Dunkin' Donuts. So right next to the terminal, or right below the terminal area, is a Dunkin' Donuts where you can get donuts. It's a little bit different. They have a more European style way of serving coffee, things like that, but they still have a lot of the traditional donuts that, the Boston cream, just the regular donuts. I'm not a big donut person myself, but if you're ever in Guayaquil and you're craving Dunkin' Donuts, there's one over there. Now keep in mind too, like I said, one of the differences that they do in Ecuador with their coffee is that if they're going to serve you brewed coffee, it's going to be in the style of like an Americano and espresso. An Americano, being that it's a lot closer to the way that an espresso is made, half espresso, half water. So just kind of keep that in mind if you go there. But if you like Dunkin' Donuts coffee, it's going to be something that you're going to want to have, right? Obviously. And believe it or not, I haven't drank any Dunkin' Donuts coffee since I arrived. So back to Otavalo. So this was a view of the theater area where the zoo, the apiary that they have on the top of the mountain in Otavalo that Sophia and I went to. This is Parque, I'm having a brain fart here, Condor, Parque Condor. And again, really great vista of just that area. And somehow it kind of reminded me of the textures from Skyrim, if you guys ever played that game for PC or one of the consoles. This is kind of a close-up view of the entranceway into the park itself. And I explained in the previous video that it's made with like rammed earth and also pieces of grass and things like that. And the grass helps kind of bind the mud and the dirt and the clay together to form kind of a very strong structure. And I just wanted to do a close-up of this just because I found it very fascinating to have. This is like the first time I've ever seen a building that was constructed with this material, so I couldn't help myself but take a picture of it, and I wanted to be able to share it with you guys. And this is one of the cool, at least for me, one of the really cool things to be able to see when you go out to this place, and then just getting a general sense of how they constructed this building from the different materials that they have, and one being that like I said, like a rammed earth with pieces of grass and things like that. It's quite fascinating to see. Now I want to share a an eagle video. They have an American bald eagle in at this apiary. Whoops, that's not. Let me. That was supposed to go here. So here you go, guys. So here's one of the bald eagles that was part of the show, right? And I'm going to play that one more time. And it's tough to really tell the size of how big this is, but it's really like almost the size of my waist all the way up to my head. They're big birds, not big birds from Sesame Street, but they're big birds. Another great view from Parque de Condor. As you can see, it's just we were taking pictures from the street, and this is one of the lakes that they have out there. And it was just absolutely just a beautiful vista from that vantage point that it was just incredible just to see, right? On top of if I was by myself, I'd probably walk to the park. I mean, it's a long way from the Airbnb that we stayed at, but for me, I probably would have tried to run. Like if I were to stay in Otavalo for an extended period of time, I would make it a thing to actually try to run to Parque Condor on the top of this mountain, because it was just absolutely gorgeous to be able to go to. But on top of that, it'd be a great physical challenge that for me would be kind of a fun thing to do. I actually haven't even ran since I got back. Not that that's any of real importance, but I figured one of the ways to stay in shape is to do some activities while you're on the road, especially if you're doing kind of long-term stay like I am. I'm out here for a couple months, and if you're looking to stay in shape, right, one of the ways that I do that, like today, I did pull-ups kind of in between while I was working on my computer. I did some pull-ups. I did 2 sets of 20, and as you can see, these pipes they're bulging, but that was a lot earlier, so they deflated a little bit over the course of the day. Again, more of the interior, where they use all these natural materials, and it really gives you a lot of character. But they also applied, you can see actually at the edge over there, where they use that rammed earth or the clay mix. I might be describing that a little bit wrong, but excuse me for that, because I'm not too familiar with that particular design. But it was something that fascinated me looking at it as I was out there. And if you guys have any questions in regards to any of these things that I'm showing you, please feel free to ask. Let's see. Again, more pictures. These pictures really don't do justice to how beautiful everything looks out there. This is just kind of a small segment of what it's like to be out there. And it did rain a little bit. I guess we were kind of in the middle of the storm, or as the cloud was passing, and I don't know, just being able to see the distance and the different elevations is just, I don't know, it's just really cool. It's just really cool. All right. So this is a picture I took kind of at the top of the Cascades that I described about last week. And like I said, if you guys get a chance to watch the previous video, this picture was, I went by myself just because it was a little bit precarious being able to go up those stairs that were literally stairs that were carved in the dirt, and some of it kind of eroded away because it's been raining the past few days. I would presume that's what actually occurred, but I really wanted to at least give some semblance of what it was like out there. And again, the pictures aren't going to give you that depth of field that you would get if you were out there, and obviously that kind of anxiety that you get if you're peering over an edge. And as you can see at this portion over here, it's a drop off, right? So the good thing is, if just so happens that you fall, you can grab some of the plants as you're tumbling down. I didn't fall down, but I've obviously thought about the possibility of, if I miscalculated what I was doing, or just made some weird mistake, or just out of randomness, I slipped and I fell. One of the ways that I could at least slow down the fall is try to grab any of the plants that are there on that edge. So again, luckily I didn't fall, but I do want to show you guys what one of the cascades look like, one of the waterfalls, and it's really tough to draw an image and to let someone experience what this feels like. And I would definitely go back to this place. It was a place that I absolutely loved. Otavalo is just, like I said, a place if you want to go out and do kind of nature things. But let me just share with you guys, being very close to a waterfall. And keep in mind too, the water itself looks fairly calm, but in real essence is turbulent, and it's tough to describe how powerful that wind was, like, pushing. So if you're trying to stand in place and take a picture of the waterfall, the force of the water coming down and the wind that it's generating, it might even throw you off balance. It's very powerful, and it's one of those things that you want to be careful of. But again, this is just an awesome view, very close, probably about 25, 30 feet away from the waterfall. And there's Sophia over there. She's getting her phone ready. I'm going to play this one more time because this is kind of a little bit of a short video. So I originally thought that I was actually going to be in the water, and that was actually not the case. It was actually just getting close to it. You don't want to be jumping in the water in there. That's, you're playing with fire as far as I'm concerned. All right. Running into a lot of different aspects here during the travel log. So I should probably try to speed it up, but I think this is kind of a good point to talk about. So one of the things that I do like working on, besides working on my computer, is working with my hands. And one of the issues that we ran into was the water pump for our drinking water ended up breaking. So, we purchased a large bottle of water for cooking and drinking, and it broke. Actually, it fell down. And I thought it was completely broken, but I didn't want to completely confirm that. I didn't want to just all of a sudden buy a new one, so I made it a thing to take this thing apart. So the first aspect of what I was doing was testing out to see if this worked, right? So it would charge, the light would go on, the light indicator at the top there would go on, but it wouldn't pump any water. So I was like, okay, well, why is it doing that? And you're probably asking, why am I showing this? Well, for the most part, if you stay at a place long enough, and I've been coming to Ecuador quite often, every couple of months at a time, and I'm pretty settled in. So even though I'm traveling, believe it or not, my life here is actually quite normal. So I have a regular schedule, and a lot of instances too, I do maintenance on things that tend to break, or I try to build new things or whatever. So I took this apart, and when it fell down, apparently the connector that connects the battery, which is this, to the electrical board, was actually just loose, and that was the issue. So, these are just kind of the weird things that happens. But as you can see, I just kind of this is what I do on a regular day. These are the types of things that are here, right? So there's maintenance that I do on other particular items. In the next slides, you're going to see one of the other things that I work on as I'm on the road, because while you're on the road, and I think for people that work from their laptop or anything like that, and if they're not too settled in, it might make sense to, let me see if, no, I don't have my tool. I thought I had my Gerber here, but I typically carry, a multi-tool with me wherever I go, but it's not something that you want to have in your carry-on when you're traveling on the plane. You want to have it on your check-in bag because they will confiscate that. I know that from experience, and it's happened to me numerous times. And it's something that, if you're okay with spending another $40, $50, that's your prerogative. But for me, I like to have things that last for a long time, not only for clothes, but also for tools. But this in itself, but I needed actually a longer screwdriver to be able to uncap the top there. So quick fix. This thing just came loose, and you could actually hear it rattling. So I figured that, a plastic piece might have broken off, but it was actually this plug itself that just went loose. Another thing, just this past weekend, I had this cannabis beer. Could you believe that? Can you believe that it's being introduced here in Ecuador, which was before, apparently, cannabis is illegal. Now, keep in mind that this beer flavor from Xmark is actually from France, but it's actually, there's no cannabis or CBD in this drink itself. This is actually, it's just the flavor. Now, is it good is the question. It's okay. You can definitely tell, if any, I can confirm nor deny that I know what cannabis tastes like, and it has semblance of cannabis flavor, but it's not cannabis itself. So it's a little bit different. But it's very interesting that you actually find this in the major grocery stores. And, it's the flavor profile has some of the essence in it. However, it's not cannabis itself. Okay. So if you guys are thinking that you're going to get loaded up, fly high as a kite while you're out here in Ecuador, yeah, it's not happening. This is just flavor, and I had to test it out. See, it says with the flavor of cannabis. Okay, and it's a little bit sweeter than what you would find in a typical beer, and it's not something that I particularly enjoy. I'm not a big sweets person, although I do eat a lot of cookies here for some reason. You know why? Because it's really tasty. So, this is a weekend project that I did. So these are tools actually that I picked up. This was, I think, about $20. It was one of the cheaper ones, but surprisingly, I don't remember the brand, but it's a multi-set. You got drills both for wood, concrete, and then you also steel, and then hole makers there. And that's all I essentially use to open up. Oh, here it is right here. And an old toothbrush that I used, and I opened up this laptop that I have here. I did open it up, and you know what? I didn't do any specs on it. I didn't check any of the specs on it, but I basically took it apart to clean it, and hopefully that helps kind of the performance issues that this laptop was having. But it's an older Asus with an Intel Celeron, so if you're running things like Chrome, the Chrome browser, or even Firefox or Brave, honestly, I don't think it's going to do too much, because the Celeron processor itself is it's not that powerful of a processor itself, and it's a onboard graphics card. And as you can see right here, here's the RAM slots. This is the hard drive itself over here, and I bought this a long time ago out on a whim, and it's a good travel laptop because it's really compact. But you're not going to really get the performance that you need if you're going to run some heavy-duty applications that require a lot of graphics. It's just not going to be able to do that. However, the reason why I'm bringing this up, because, like I said, if you are traveling long-term, you are going to encounter, especially if you do it for a long enough time, there are going to be instances where you're going to encounter issues with the hardware that you bring over. and just so happens that I do the maintenance on the hardware stuff that I have, both on my main laptop, which is what I'm using right now to do the live broadcast, but also this spare one that we have here, so that Sophia can do her work when she's traveling or she has to work from home. But it was successful. You actually don't see any of the broken parts because I kind of pushed that out of the way there. But this was a picture that I took, like I said, before and after, and it works fine. That was one of the things I was really happy about with fixing up the laptop there. But again, so and believe it or not, one of the things, it looks pretty intimidating, right? But overall, it's really not as complicated as it seems. It's really just locating where the screws are, not being too aggressive about opening it up, and just seeing where the fasteners are connected, and then being able to take it apart and then putting it back together. So I have kind of a semi-simple system where I put all the screws to the left. There was actually one screw that I forgot, but we won't talk about that. But it works fine. I turned it on, whatever, So these are just kind of the things that you encounter right while on the road. It's something that I enjoy myself, and it was something that needed to get done. The major thing was just cleaning out the fan, brushing out some of the dust that collected on the processor, which I did take out the motherboard itself. So I had to disconnect all these connectors here. But otherwise, it's running great. I've had it for several years, and it's still chugging. So that's all we got left for the travelogue. Now, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. But again, this is something, like I said, this is something that I do working on my laptop. It's just kind of the natural occurrence of things. Sometimes you have to deal with issues as they arrive. And believe it or not, I actually had to make a repair on my main laptop, and I did film a video on it, but I never posted it just because I don't know why. Maybe I'll just post it just to show you guys. It's actually not as hard as it seems, but kind of just some of the weird pitfalls that arrive when you're traveling. But let's get to not financial advice, right? And this is probably the part that you guys like to follow up on. And one of the things that I think is a really great segue is to talk about Airbnb. And why are we going to talk about Airbnb, both as a stock, but also as a potential option as far as traveling out there. And I think one of the great things about being able to use services like Airbnb, and then on top of looking at it from an investor perspective, you can kind of combine those two together to get a sense of what the service is like. You having first-person perspective on using the service and going to some of these different places. And I'm sure some of you who are watching are actually at an Airbnb or have tried an Airbnb. Maybe you had a rough experience. Maybe you had a good experience. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I swear by it. Ecuador was actually the first place I went to, used Airbnb for the first time, and I was blown away, and have carried with me some really great experiences, but most importantly, just developed some wonderful relationships. Obviously, Sophia being one of them, but some really great friends that I've met along the way, and got to see them more recently, as I described in the previous video. And but let's get back onto track here about Airbnb. Full disclosure, I do not own Airbnb. However, it is within the price target that I've been looking at. So the price target that I've been looking at for Airbnb for myself to purchase a handful of stocks is between $120 and $160. That's the price range that I've been locking in as far as what I perceive to be the value, or a good value entryway into getting into Airbnb. Now, was that the price that it was issued when it first launched? No. And in typical fashion for a lot of IPOs or initial public offering for stocks, that cannot be the case sometimes. But one of the reasons why I bring it up is, like I said, and it's a really great segue from the whole travel experience thing, because Airbnb is part of that. But I also want to talk about some of the really important aspects about Airbnb, both as the host as well as the person visiting or staying at an Airbnb. And like I said, I've been the person who's been going to places and staying at Airbnbs. And from my personal experience, it really, in my opinion, blows away a lot of the other competitor types, like hotels and things like that. And part of the reason for that is because it's just a completely different experience in itself, because you're able to go to places or attractions, I would say, and people's houses, and experience an area in a completely different way. And you're really kind of in that experience. Whereas hotels themselves, and I've stayed at a lot of hotels and I do enjoy hotels, but one of the things that I do want to say about them is that it's a very kind of cookie cutter experience that you're going to get. Whereas with Airbnbs, you're really going to get a very broad spectrum, you're going to get a broad spectrum, but you're going to get these very specific types of experiences that you otherwise would not have gotten. On another note, one of the things that I do like about Airbnb itself is that it's really opened up the door for anyone who's a homeowner to generate income that would otherwise they would not have the availability to do that. And it's really just having like your cell phone to be able to make those, to manage and make those transactions. And in a lot of ways that has enabled not only the people that are searching for places to go to, who are looking for experiences outside of their normal experiences, but it's also a great way for the people that are hosting to gather those types of experiences, and everyone kind of learns from each other. Now, with that being said, there are some negatives to that. And one of the negatives to that, I think, or the major one that I want to talk about the most, is that because Airbnb now has really opened up a lot of different places and a lot of different experiences, it removes some of the mystery away from the whole travel experience. But I think that's kind of the inertia of what technology is doing today for the world, not just for people in developing countries, but in other countries as well that might have reduced resources, right? These are the types of things that I think are just more beneficial for society as a whole. And when I say that, I mean society as a whole, for the whole world. But it does, like I said, remove some of the mystery that what traveling used to be like, when our fathers and our mothers traveled back in the day, whether it was the 90s, 80s, the 70s, and going back in time, it was just a completely different way to travel, where you had to carry a map, you had to really ask around. Whereas now, because basically everybody in the world, or most people in the world, already have cell phones, well, it kind of removes some of that friction that comes with traveling. But at the same time, you're still getting that opportunity to experience new places in a very specific way, because now you're staying at somebody's house. And again, I can't talk about it enough as being like for me, this is not a sponsored video, but highly recommend people who never got the chance to go to an Airbnb, or if you just moved to a place and you need a place to stay that makes you feel comfortable or at home, Airbnb is definitely just the way to go. But on top of that, let's talk about the financials. And that was kind of a long drawn out thing, but I really wanted to talk about it because it kind of all applies to the brand Airbnb itself, but also just the culture that it brings with it. And I think it's a very positive thing to think about when being able to travel. And I apologize that some of the picture there is getting cut off, but it's 149. It closed today at 4 o'clock Eastern time at 149.70, and it went up 0.13%. And let's kind of put things into perspective here. All right. So in the previous video, I talked about earnings per share and price PE ratio. So price over earnings. Okay. So the place that I stayed, the place that Sophia and I stayed at in Otavalo was roughly about $26 for one night. Okay. Now, if it was $26, and I want to say that Airbnb takes 30%. 30% of the sales, right? So 30% of $26 is roughly about $7.20. Now, considering that, just that notion right there. So this is indicating, at least just at the forefront of what this data is showing with the PE ratio and the earnings per share ratio, that their sales that they're generating, so that 30% from the $26 of using the Airbnb service and staying at the place, they took that $7.20, for being able to people to use the service and locate the locations. It doesn't show up there, but I also want to point out, like I said, kind of the cultural aspect of things. This is a company that is generating revenue. And it's almost immediate when that process happens. Obviously, there are certain instances where places get booked and then, travel situations kind of fluctuate and things like that. But if you look at that kind of on a macro level, this is a company that's generating income, or at least generating revenue to hopefully one day generate income. So to me, like I said, I'm a believer of this company, and I think the CEO himself is actually from Rhode Island. Dave Chesney, I think is his name. Yeah, it's one of those things where you really get a different experience. But on top of that, with that experience, like I said, with a company like this, if you are staying at Airbnb, if you are staying at a Holiday Inn or a Marriott or wherever you're planning to stay at, it might make sense to look at, if they're on the stock exchange. At least that'll give you an open window as to looking at it from kind of a very macro bird's eye view level, right? So if you're on a business trip and you paid out $300 for a Marriott stay, and then you kind of just generally think about how many employees are there. Is it a corporate hotel? Is it a franchise? Who knows? But those are certain things to take into consideration, as that will kind of balance out kind of the risk reward aspect of some of these locations that operate as a business. And Airbnb, not actually having a physical place of their own, and they generate revenue from people using the service, where places are searchable and people can find it and book it very quickly, and the transaction happens pretty seamlessly. That's their value that they add, right? So with that in mind, it might make sense to look at the Airbnb website. And I'm not logged in there, but it looks very bad there. Let me reset this real quick. Okay, give me a second here. I'm just gonna reset. Perfect. So that you guys can see the whole screen. I didn't realize it was doing that. Okay, so as you can see, pretty inviting. Interesting design aspect here. Very inviting picture. Not sure why they don't have any faces, but that's not part of this discussion anyways. And this is one of the cool things, right? So they're giving you, obviously these are very well doctored pictures, right? But you can kind of just see the breadth of places that are available out there. And it's quite fascinating that, like I said, that they have a large array of different choices that you can have that would otherwise have not been available previously. And it's going to be an experience in itself just to go to some of these places, on top of the fact that in many instances, the cost to stay at some of these places, assuming that it's not a big touristy area and stuff like that, or someone who owns the house is not in debt and they're they're charging, you know, an arm and a leg to stay at their place. You know, on typical fashion, if you stay at a place long enough, you actually get a pretty decent discount. And why don't we just take a look at the place that I stayed at? And keep in mind, shameless shameless plug. The previous videos are available right now, and I will be posting a live tour of the Otavalo location so that you guys get a better view of you know, what this place looks like. But I'm going to see if I can. Maybe he's here. No, that's not. Yep, look at this. So for one person, it's $11. But look at this. Oh, this is the place that I stayed at, guys. This is the place that Sophia and I stayed at. This is actually the room that we stayed at. Really just amazing. Look, I mean, look at this. It's one thing to, you know, marvel at the pictures. It's another thing to actually see the place, be there, and kind of just hang out. And unfortunately, we were only there for one night, so we didn't really get the chance to, you know, fully experience the of being there. But it was one of those. It was being there longer, which is something that I want to do more specifically. This is, oh, you know what? This is one of the things that they added here, was that there was a typewriter there. So so they did add a few things. The kitchen, you know, just super rustic, really cool looking. That's the artist. Like I said, the next time I come out to Otavalo, it's going to be the place that I'm going to go to. I'm going to stay at it again. I'm going to rent this place out again because it was just absolutely amazing, and it was really fun to stay there. It was just, I mean, it's just really cool. You know, it's just really cool. And I'll show you guys the other place that I stay at, but in Quito. So yeah, that's you know, that's just a quick look. Like I said, so Airbnb A Alpha Bravo November Bravo is the symbol. It's $149.85. At some point in the future, if it stays within this range, I'm going to be looking to purchase a handful of shares at some point as a long-term play for my portfolio with stocks, because, like I said, it's a really great service, and you get a variety of places that you can stay at. I just happened to pick that place because it was close to the center of town, looked like a pretty quiet neighborhood, and so on and so forth. And the last segment of this video, and again, keep in mind, guys, if you have any questions and things like that, because this is live, I can respond to you. And like I said, I'm at my studio time right now, so I can definitely you know, work my computer a lot easier as I'm talking about these things as well. So let's okay, here we go. So the next part, because we're coming into the final 6 minutes of the show, is cTheories. And it's not more of a C theory, it's more of awareness, right? And I think one of the I can't stress this enough, right? The cTheories are there, and it kind of melds with a lot of the other topics that I talk about. You know, with the TraveLog, you have the not financial advice, and then you also have the cTheories. And it's kind of intertwined, right? Because especially if you're traveling, we want to have confidence about being able to travel safely, but also having the opportunity to experience the different activities and things like that while we're out traveling. And I think it makes a lot of sense to kind of bring these things up. So a few things, at least here locally in Ecuador, is that the curfews that they originally had for a month that lasted until May 20th, obviously that has canceled, and every place now is completely wide open. So bars, clubs, restaurants, obviously tourist areas, they're all open and things like that. On top of that, the following week, on May 24th, President Lasso was inaugurated as president in Ecuador. And he seems to be in that mode, at least from what I've seen in the news and what Sophia has told me, and other Ecuadorians told me, is that he's really in the mode of opening up the economy out here in Ecuador. So if you guys get the chance, I know there are several people that I am talking with about coming into Ecuador and staying for an extended period of time. As of today, and I want to say May 20th, it's been wide open. But I can honestly say there hasn't been as many tourists from, at least from what I've seen from like U.S., Canada, and Europe. Europe having some issue, just recently lifting their some of their travel restrictions and things like that. So I think as the world starts to open up a lot more, we might be able to see a lot more kind of traffic and weaving and things like that. And I think that's really just a beautiful thing to be able to have that across the world. So with that in mind, I mean, I do have to bring up these types of situations here because, again, it's safety is an issue, and we all have to take into consideration the choices that we have to make, right? With what's going on and the type of information that's provided for us. And we parse that information, and then we make decisions based on the information that we have, right? And I guess the two ways that I really kind of want to look at this type of thing is one, our safety. The next thing that I really want to talk about are the opportunities that come with learning about news like this. I guess I'm not trying to point it out as some sea theory. It's really about, safety, and then also finding opportunities and, turning that rock over and seeing if that it can, if there's a nugget of gold on there. And I don't know. I just think this is a little odd, right? This is actually Massachusetts. I'm not going to go into grave detail. The headline speaks for itself. It's a little disconcerting, for my honest opinion, about what's going on with this situation. But it's important to just kind of be aware that it's just really strange times, and I think moving forward, it's just going to get a little bit more strange as time passes. But would really like to get some feedback in regards to looking at things like this, and are you for it or against it? Or I don't have any kids myself. However, I think the kids' teens years is probably one of the most volatile, but also sometimes some of the most fun that people can have. And I just find it kind of odd that there's weird things going on. This was something that I actually sent to family members too. And again, along the same lines, right? We have to take into consideration when traveling that some of these issues will arise, and sometimes the information themselves doesn't become available till after things start to occur, right? So, are the intentions of what's going on, positive? Are they negative? It's tough to say. It's important that I think we should consider the possibilities that there might have been some opportunities here with, at least if you're an investor, right? What this all means, because this is one of the things that I think about, and this is just more of a practice that I take for myself. But it's something that maybe that you can borrow. Maybe this will help you, looking at these types of things. Like I said, sometimes when it seems like in a lot of situations, I might be describing things in a more kind of, I don't know, negative tone. But at the same time, like I said, I bring these things up because, like I said, they're all kind of intertwined together. And obviously this affects me as someone who travels for a long period of time, where I was, quarantined here in Ecuador, which was actually a great thing because I got to spend a lot of time with Sophia and her family. But realistically, for me, I've been taking the PCR test to travel. And this is just a little disconcerting. There's a lot of risk involved, and I'm like I said, it's one of those here's the title of it, so snapshot or things like that, and get a chance to get a good read of it if you'd like. But I have to, for someone who travels, at least for me, I like to stay on top of situations that I might encounter, and also make some types of predictions to prepare, because when it all comes down to it, right? I'm not sure. I'm not really sure how well some of these things play out. Maybe this is just kind of a flash in the pan of a situation that is not as bad as it seems, right? However, because these things kind of pop up, and like I said, this was published on the 10th of June. Not too long. This was basically almost a little just over a week. I have to be conscious about these types of things because, like I said, when I'm traveling, especially during the quarantine period, it was very difficult to navigate through the process of making sure that I could travel. And then, could I get to the next province? Could I get to the next flight? What happens when I'm at a layover at another airport before I arrive at the airport that I was intending to fully arrive at, like Boston? And then what happens? Well, I didn't know. And that was a decision that I made during the quarantine, when the quarantine first started back in March of 2020. But again, when traveling, I think a lot of people might have those types of reservations when they're traveling, because you do have a job that you have to go to the office, or you do have a job that has pretty tight deadlines that you have to follow. And if you miss these deadlines, it could push things, further down the road. And, and those types of things can happen. And it's something that, I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody. And because, we're all trying to contribute to society. We're all trying to do a good thing for each other. And I think the most important thing is just being well informed about the possibility that, sometimes maybe the answers that were given before probably were missing a few pieces, or they just had the wrong pieces in them. And then now that time has reached what it is, well, there was a few things that were uncovered, right? And obviously, I might be a little bit biased about bringing these types of things up because, well, I have my own bias. That's who I am, and you as you the viewer as well will have your own biases about situations and ideas. But at least the information is out there for us to consume, and I think it's up for us to interpret them and make decisions based on the information that we have. And so to close, I know I ran a little bit longer than I intended there, but it was much shorter segment to talk about the cTheories. Not so much as a cTheory itself, however, just safety first, and making sure that everyone's okay and things like that, and that we can travel safely. Because when we do get the chance to do so, it's a wonderful experience. And if you guys have any requests or anything like that, contact me. Leave a like. Smash that like button, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We're really looking to try to grow this channel. I'm aiming to try to get it to at least to 20 subscribers. And obviously, I'm looking to continuously improve the format of the Waypoint program. So thank you guys very much for joining me in this awesome discussion. And I was really happy to be able to share with you guys my experience out here. And I hope that was helpful and you learned a few things. But anyway, have a wonderful day. Happy belated Father's Day. And I'll catch up with with people in the very near future. Take it easy.